Hey, Mr. Jerry.
How's it going, Tom?
How are you doing?
Ready?
Ready, Miss Cindy? Going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. We'll start with A, consider approval of the 2020-21 property and casualty crime and errors and emissions insurance policies. Mr. Schneiderbach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we're presenting y'all the 2021 casualty and property crime errors and emissions policies. With us today, we have Ms. Carmen Bro, who's our insurance consultant. And I'm going to pass the mic to Ms. Bro and have her present to y'all the renewal policies.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, it's that time of year again. You have several of your insurance policies that are coming up for renewal in September. The first one we're going to go through, the first spreadsheet that you have up in front of you, we're going to start with the liability package. I'm going to be focusing in on column 5 because that's the renewal offer being offered by your current agent for this renewal. You'll see section A is your general liability. There are no changes on the general liability section to the limits of liability, which is the $3 million. You're still going to have the $150,000 deductible SIR. The only change you're going to see on this policy is there is an exclusion that's being added this year, which is new. It's a communicable disease exclusion, and it's, of course, in relation to the pandemic that's ongoing right now. This is something that all liability carriers are looking at. I've seen them added to every single one of my policies. It's not just Berkeley, it's all insurance carriers have these endorsements now, and they're adding them to their policies. The renewal premium for this renewal for your package is going to be $639,530. It's about a $104,000 increase over expiring policy. You're going to see right below that on line 19 and 20, your agent did go to the marketplace. He shopped multiple carriers to get the best quote possible. And just to give you an idea of how many carriers they went to, he went to 15 different carriers. 11 of them declined to quote. They're either not writing school boards anymore, they're not writing in Louisiana anymore, or they didn't like the loss runs that they saw for your school board. We did receive 3 quotes, and we did receive an indication from a 4th carrier. The other 2 quotes that they got, you'll see on line 19 and 20. That's with Liberty Mutual. That premium came in a little over $704,000. And then Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association, that one came in at $675,000. I just wanted to put these on here so that you can see they truly did, your agents truly did shop the marketplace and got the best thing for you out there. Unfortunately, it is an increase. I am seeing an increase in liability across the board. All of my school boards, I handle 9 school boards in the state, and all 9 have experienced increases. Some not quite as much as yours, and some more. I've had one that had a 28% increase on liability last month. So it's not something new for just Tangipahoa Whole Parish. It is, I'm seeing it across the state with liability carriers. When you go to section B, this is your automobile liability section.
Can we pause a minute?
Sure. You have a question?
Yeah, So you started to explain this, but this is a 220-something increase since 2016, right?
Yeah, yes.
So, I mean, this is a really troubling trajectory, and this is an over $100,000 increase in 1 year. You mentioned loss runs and just overall increases, but I mean, there's got to be something that we can do to get control of this. It's not a sustainable trajectory for us. This is huge. I mean, I don't know So what do we need to be thinking about as a board
What
to-
we need
to deal
be-
with this?
What we need to be thinking about is putting in some safety measures and loss control measures. I know we have a risk manager, Ms. Kim, and I think she's doing a good job with what she has right now. But I think what we need to do is we need to get with the agent and with Berkeley and get them to give us, I know Berkeley has some loss control classes and things that they can offer online to your employees that will help with that at no cost to the school system. They have programs that they'll provide, and I think we need to seriously start looking at where is the bulk of our liability claims coming from? Is it auto? And that's what it is. It's on the auto side. Does it mean that we need to have all of our bus drivers go through a 30-minute training video on the, computer? And they can do it at their own time. It's log in, do it, and it records as they're doing it.
And the auto insurance, just 'cause, and I know the answer to this, but just so, the auto insurance is included in that 639 premium.
That's correct.
So it is, you are telling us that
The
that
bulk,
this increase in the premium is largely as a result of these bus driving claims that we keep getting.
that's absolutely correct.
Okay. And, okay, go ahead.
Well, just one question on that, but on the bus driving claims, haven't we paid those out of self-insured funds?
I know a lot of them come out of self-insured. Do we have a,
I mean, if we,
They come out of your retention, which is your deductible. Currently, it's at $350,000, but prior, in 2016, it was only at $150,000. And what's happening is claims are developing over time. When they first happen and the claim gets set up and the reserves are set, it may be a low reserve. It may be a $100,000 reserve set on that particular bus accident. But as the claim develops over the next year, that reserve is bumped up quite a bit. That's what insurance companies don't like seeing. They don't like seeing the development of claims. If it's a serious claim, when it happens, the reserves are set high, and those are going to happen. You can't get around those. It's those that develop over time that they don't like.
but it's a good point, because this $200,000 increase has also come at the same time that we agreed to increase our deductible from $150,000 to $350,000, and we're
That's
still
correct.
seeing a huge increase in our premium. But you're telling us that we've shopped around, we've tried to get better rates, and there's nobody else that's offering anything else?
That's absolutely correct. Your agents shop the marketplace, and I know you're probably looking at this paper and seeing that we had a different agent back in 2016. I work with that other agent, Arthur J. Gallagher. They're having increases also. Could they have gotten you anything better with Berkeley? No. In my opinion, no, they could not have.
So this is really on us. We've got to do a better job of getting our risk situation in line, and we've started that process by getting a risk manager in place, but we still have some things we need to get to work on, is
That's
your
correct.
advice.
And that's something that we need to kind of put on the front burner now, because that $350,000, that's your money, and every single claim, you're paying for it. So if we can, eliminate some of those claims or lessen the severity of them by, retraining our bus drivers, it saves you money.
And that deductible includes our fees to our defense attorney as well, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
go ahead.
So risk management, Ms. Modriano, before this person, did we have one before that was hired for that kind of thing?
I don't think you had a person in that, with that title.
It's in the bus department,
I think at one time it was LeVar, and he did a fantastic job of loss control. I know I've gone out a couple of times with him doing bus driver training classes and stuff like that. I don't know if that's still happening.
We still have the training, just not as effective.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Just one follow-up question on that, and I know we've been satisfied with Emory and James and the work we've had with them, but does it look like we've done our due diligence as far as we really, I know we're talking about, they shopped 17 different companies, but as far as the public's concerned, we're bringing one price. We're bringing one company, you know, and I know the other companies would shop the same companies, but we're still having to take the word for one company. Publicly, that looks like we're only selecting one bidder.
That's why I included those other two carriers, Liberty Mutual and Pennsylvania. I showed their prices on there. And when your agent sent me all of their proposals, it's not just a number that they sent me saying Liberty Mutual is quoting this, Pennsylvania Manufacturers is quoting this. I actually get their proposals from Liberty. I got a full Liberty Mutual proposal. So I'm actually getting full proposals from those other carriers also. And they, I mean, I see them with other school boards that I'm dealing with, and it's not like they're out in left field. I'm seeing this same ratio of being higher than Berkeley is.
You also look at the policies and the premiums that are covered and different things and compare that, and this is why you're recommending Berkeley.
That's absolutely correct. One of the things that you don't see on the sheet with Liberty Mutual and Pennsylvania Manufacturers, like Liberty Mutual quote, that $704,000 does not cover sexual abuse. It's excluded on all of their policies. There's different things that aren't covered under those policies that you have with Berkeley. The Pennsylvania Manufacturers, they will not give, they only go back 20 years on sexual abuse retroactive dates. Berkeley's putting that in place this year, and you're going to see that when I continue on to that section. But they would not pay for your defense cost, was included in that limit of liability, whereas right now with Berkeley, it's paid in addition to the limit of liability. So there's differences between each one of them. I mean, I just didn't show them each a column. I mean, I could do that in the future if you'd like to see it that way.
But you're still talking about the carrier, or you're still talking about the provider. I'm talking about the agent that we go through.
Okay, you're
That's
wanting
what
to see
we're not-
multiple agents.
Well, not that I want to see that, but we're not bringing that to the table. We're just bringing one price from one agent, although we're satisfied and we've had good relationship. But publicly, it would look better had we have more than one agent to price the same bid from, you know, Berkeley or whoever.
And I can certainly do that in the future.
I have one question. So you mentioned there were 11 companies that chose not to give a price. Do we know why they didn't want to give a price?
Yes, each of them gave their reason for not, and it's either that they're not writing public school boards anymore, they're not writing public school boards in Louisiana anymore, or because of your losses.
Well, so nothing particularly against us or anything that we're not doing or doing?
There was just a few of them that didn't want because of your losses. But the majority of them, it's because they're not writing new school boards in Louisiana, or they're not writing school boards at all anymore. A lot of liability carriers stopped writing. They put a halt to their writing. Their reinsurance markets put a halt to it when this pandemic started blowing up in March and April. So we have fewer and fewer carriers that are even willing to look at it because of that.
Well, some of the, and let me go to the section I'm looking at. I think we're still under auto, but the next section, lease car physical damage. So even the amount has changed as far as from last year for maximum payable per accident. Those items have also lowered.
I'm gonna get to that next.
Okay.
Yeah, if we're finished with the auto, when we flip to the next page, the next section is going to be your lease car physical damage. This is your comprehensive and collision for the vehicles that you lease. You're going to see that this year we have 72 units rather than 71, but Berkeley is lowering their limit on the number, the maximum payable per accident and the maximum payable aggregate policy year aggregate at $500,000. That's what their reinsurance is allowing them to do this year, and that's what we have to offer. That, unfortunately, that's all they will allow. Now, what is the cost of a new bus? $80,000. I mean, how many buses do we need to lose at one time to reach that 500 maximum? You would have to lose 5 at one time to reach it.
But we're kicking our deductible up to $20,000 per accident.
And that's correct. Your deductible on your comprehensive and collision for each accident, each comp claim, we're going up to $20,000
For
from 10
property.
to 20.
For property damage.
Right.
So basically, we're going to be covering the damage to any of our leased vehicles. So we're just not even getting, I mean, unless, and I don't think we've had I don't know when we've had a totaled bus that's cost more than $20,000.
I don't think you've had any total, but your lease requires you to carry this coverage.
But we're just covering it, is what we're saying here. At $20,000,
Correct.
we're going to cover it every time.
That is correct. And the premium for this physical damage is included in that original package. The next section is D, your school board errors and omissions liability. There's a couple of changes on this one. Your limit of liability is going to remain the same at the $2 million limit. Your deductible is going to remain the same at $250,000. Where we're going to come into a change is on the retroactive date for claims. Berkeley will no longer do full prior acts, which means it doesn't matter when the claim happened, when the incident happened, they're covering it. They're only going to go back 20 years now. So that's something that's different. It's new. 9/7 of 2000. So any incident that happened prior to September 7th of 2000 will not be picked up by Berkeley. You're not going to have coverage for it. I don't think, in my opinion, that's a big issue for your employment practices liability or your employee benefits liability, because those things happen rather quickly, come to light usually quickly, because there's a prescription time to file suit for those items. Where we really need to watch is the sexual abuse claims. That's also changing the retroactive date. They're only going back 20 years on that. So that's September 7th of 2000. Any incident that's happened prior to that, if it comes to light now after September 7th of this year, you do not have coverage, you don't have defense coverage for it at all. That's the biggest change. Are there any incidents out there that are sleeping we don't know about? It's possible. If anyone knows, anybody in administration, it would be a good idea to send some type of letter, and I'm going to send you that, Brett, letting you know, send to the principals, document so that we have something documented in the file so that if it comes up, we've made notification prior to this September 7th renewal date. The premium for that errors and omissions policy is included in that $639,530. So that is your liability package. That's what I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you go ahead and approve to renew this year. When we flip to the next page, this is the crime insurance. This is your employee dishonesty coverage. Again, column 5, it's with Emory and James, your current agent, Travelers, same carrier. There are no changes to any of the limits or deductibles here. Your premium, unfortunately, is going to be going up. It's going to be $16,073. It's $4,500 more than expiring. That is directly related to the claim they paid in 2019. They paid a $100,000 loss at the beginning of the cyber attack. And so that's increase is directly related to that claim. The next section we have is your machinery breakdown or boiler machinery. Again, column 5, that's with Emory and James, Travelers Insurance Company, no change there. The same limits, there's no changes to any of the policy conditions or terms. 250 million limit. The deductible will remain the same. The premium for this year is going to be $11,367. It's about $800 increase over expiry. Then when we flip to the last page, this is your property insurance, your building and contents insurance. Again, we're looking at column 5. This is with Powell and Associates. You will notice there is going to be a change in the insurance carrier for this year. This board buys $25 million of named storm coverage. And that's bought in 2 layers. The first layer covers $10 million. The second layer will cover $15 million. The first layer, the $10 million, was previously covered with 2 insurance carriers. They shared in it, Colony and Westchester. This year, it's only going to be Westchester. Colony pulled out. They do not want a part of the primary layer, so it's just going to be Westchester that's going to write the primary layer. There are no other changes to the first layer. Everything else will remain the same. The same deductible, the 1% for loss by wind and hail in a named storm, and then you have, of course, your all other perils at $100,000. The premium for this renewal is going to be $592,854. That's a $93,816 increase over expiring. That is the property market still in Louisiana, not good. The only positive is if you look under line 20, Westchester is giving us some options on the deductible, on the named storm deductible, that 1%. They are giving us options to increase that deductible, that 1% to 2%, 3%, and 5%. Understand that that deductible is reimbursed by FEMA at 100% in a catastrophic event that's been declared a catastrophic by the president. They will reimburse you for that deductible. So this may be the year that we want to consider increasing that deductible and take advantage of a lower premium for that. Because if you were to have a named storm hit, you would get reimbursed. Of course, you're going to pay it out of pocket, then you're going to get reimbursed from FEMA on it. What I'm going to recommend tonight is that we go ahead and increase to the 5%. That has the greatest savings. That will bring that first layer down to $506,079. So that's going to be what my recommendation for you this year will be. Then when you keep going down the page to section B, this is your second layer.
Hold on the optional terrorism coverage, are we rejecting that again?
Every year this board rejects it, and I would assume you want to continue rejecting it.
Okay.
And that number that you see there, the 592 and the 506, does not include terrorism. If you wanted terrorism, we'd add another 40,000 to it.
Right, okay.
Section B, which is your second layer, this is your 15 million layer of coverage to get you to your 25 million. The premium for this renewal will be $141,247. Again, by increasing the 5% named storm on layer 1, you will see a savings on layer 2. The premium for this layer would only be $106,350. And so I'm going to recommend that we go ahead and make the jump this year to the 5%. And just to kind of give you an idea of what other school boards are doing in the state, the 9 school boards that I handle, most of them have anywhere from 5 to 7.5% increase. I've seen quotes this year offering 10%, just to try and keep the rates down. None of them jumped to 10 yet. I have anywhere from 5 to 7.5%. So jumping, you were my lowest at 1%. I don't have any others left at 1%. And I haven't for several years. So I would be comfortable recommending that we move to the 5% this year. Any questions?
Are we voting on this individually, each policy, or are we doing it all in?
There's one motion. So I would make the motion to adopt I'm assuming that your recommendation is the administration's recommendation. To move to adopt the administration's recommendation on the property, crime, and E&O insurance renewal, specifically to increase our deductible to 5% and to reject the terrorism insurance.
And if you want to put a figure in there,
At
the
the total premium of $1,279,399.
A call for a vote, Ms. Cindy?
Second.
Who made, Mr. Duncan made the motion?
Yes, and Ms. Janice second.
Nope, she's not on the committee.
Yeah.
Jerry or Tom?
Mr. Jerry or Tom?
I'll second it.
Tom?
What was the gallery saying?
that has to be a separate motion, and I'll tell you that as soon as you
Oh,
finish voting on this one.
Not that we're very happy about it. I mean, that's like $350,000 more than last year. So the public needs to realize how much it costs just to insure all of the things we have to have insured. Maybe they will realize that we could use a few extra funds if they would go to the polls for us at some point to even just help pay expenses from day-to-day expenses. It's unbelievable.
Online voting is now closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, Mr. Duncan, we need a separate motion to reject the uninsured motorist coverage on the automobile and give an authorization to the superintendent to sign that rejection.
Make that motion,
Second.
just like she said it. You need me to,
You can't repeat it, right?
Motion to reject the uninsured motorist and authorize the superintendent to sign on
Sign.
behalf.
Just sign the waiver.
To sign the document.
While they're getting this typed up, would like to say, everybody out there in TV land, when you see us taking our mask off, it's to talk into the microphones. There's been some comments that we're not wearing our mask. We have to do that in order for the microphones to pick up our voices. So that's why we take our mask off at the time.
Online voting is now open. Online voting is now closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chairman, before we move on to the next agenda item, and I'm sure this goes without saying, but I know that the board would appreciate, and I don't know how we can bring this to the board, but we would love it at the appropriate time for some committee or some board to receive and talk about a plan from our risk management supervisor on, specifically what we can do to get in control of our losses, whether it's a training protocol or some of the things that have been recommended. Hopefully we can have an opportunity to talk about that in the near future. So, that's it.
Okay, that's it. Okay, we're going to move on to B, consider approval of the 2021 excess workers' compensation insurance policy. Mr. Brett? Same.
Okay, The next spreadsheet that you should see is your workers' comp, your excess workers' comp insurance. This board self-funds workers' comp, and they buy an excess policy to cover above and beyond a retention, a deductible. Column 5 is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Your agent is Emery and James. Star Insurance Company is what they are presenting here tonight. You're going to notice the big change here that sticks out on this page is your self-insured retention, your deductible. It is going from $500,000 to $700,000. It's the only change on this policy. Your premium, when you get down to the bottom, line 11, the annual premium is going to be $76,028. It's a small decrease over expiring, although you're taking on more exposure because you're going to take on $200,000 more in deductible for each and every claim. I know it sounds like a lot. It is a lot. But when you look at your claims, and I think, do they have the claim summary?
They have none.
Okay. I have gone back and looked at your workers' comp claims for the last 6 years. I do this every year. I can send it back to Mr. Schnattelbach, and he can send it out to you so that you can look at it. It's a snapshot of your claims over the last 6 years is what I look at. And I grab out the ones over 50,000 and larger just to see how many we have and what types of claims they are. I have gone back to 2014, and from 2014 till the current date, you do not have any claim that has gone over 700,000. You've only had one claim in 2014 that went over 500,000. So is this going to mean more money out of pocket for you? If you have the same claims for the next 5 years as you've had for the last 5 years, it's not going to cost you any more than what you've paid out already, than what you already would have paid with the 500,000 deductible. So it sounds like a lot, but in reality, it's not, because your claims haven't developed into large amounts. You have quite a few claims, workers' comp claims, you have numbers, you just don't have severity. So that's what we have to offer this year. That's what your agent has to offer, and I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you renew this policy.
I guess my question would be, if we haven't had any claims over and above 700,000, what is the risk to us not having this coverage at all? We just...
You either have to self-insure, which you're doing right now and buying excess insurance. That's something that's required in the state, for the state, or you provide first dollar workers' comp coverage. We do away with self-funding, and we go back to the traditional way of covering workers' comp. We go to an insurance carrier that pays first dollar on every single claim.
So we have to have an excess policy even if we're self-insured
That's correct.
this way?
You have to have an excess policy. Now, you can choose whichever deductible you want on your excess. I have some school boards that choose $1 million retention, only because they want to pay as little as they possibly can, because they don't think they'll ever have a claim that's going to reach that 700 mark or that 500,000 mark. So they just want the highest SIR they can possibly get. The highest I've seen so far is $1 million. And that is something we can look at if, you want me to do that for you. I can certainly get them to go back to STAR and see about getting a quote increase in that deductible.
You have a range on first dollar coverage. Will you tell me more about that?
Yes, we do have a range on first dollar. The agent actually went to 8 carriers for your workers' comp. Only one of them gave an indication, and it's strictly just an indication, it's not a firm quote. On first dollar, anywhere from 2.5 million to 3 million in premium each year. And that covers everything. First dollar, doesn't cost you anything out of pocket other than this premium each and every year.
So how much did we pay in claims last year, in addition to this premium?
1.2. For last policy.
Last policy year.
Some of those claims are still open.
Yep.
Okay.
On average, I can tell you this, Mr. Duncan, on average for the last 6 years, last 5 years, you've paid 1.7 million in claims each year.
Need a motion?
Okay,
I'll make the motion that we accept the administration's recommendation.
do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Duncan, Mr. Duncan.
Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Online voting is now open. Online voting is now closed. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, we're going to move on to C. Consider approval of the 2021 cyber insurance policy.
Okay, this is the last spreadsheet that you have in front of you tonight. We only have 2 columns because this is a rather new policy. We purchased it last year. This is the renewal. Column 2 is what we're looking at. It's still with Emory and James, Westchester Insurance. The same limits, terms, conditions. Nothing has changed on this policy. It's a $2 million limit with a $25,000 deductible. The premium for this year is going to be $16,421. $2,500 increase over expiring, and that's just strictly related to all of the claims that, and it's not just here at Tangi, it is across the country that these cyber companies are paying. That's what regulates their rate for them. I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and renew this policy.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Duncan.
Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Online voting is now open. Online voting is now closed. Motion passes unanimously.
We're going to move on to D. Mr. Schneiderbach, consider approval of Sharkey Mechanical LLC as the 2021 preventative maintenance contractor for the North Area facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've gone ahead, the administration has taken out an RFP for these services. The Sharkey Mechanical LLC scored the highest on the RFP on our North Area facilities, which includes Independence Leadership Academy, Sumner Middle School, Kentwood High, the 3 Laranja schools, the Central Office, and O.W. Dillon School. The administration's recommendation to go into a 2-year contract with Sharkey Mechanical for preventive HVAC maintenance work.
So move.
Have a second?
No.
A second.
Mr. Jerry, second. Cindy?
Online voting is now open.
Robin is the chairman, she can't second it.
Motion passes with Mr. Duncan voting no.
Online voting is now closed. Motion passes with Mr. Duncan voting no.
Moving on to E, consider approval of Morgan Mechanical LLC as the 2021 preventive maintenance contractor for the South Area facility.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. Again, we've taken an RFP for this services. Morgan Mechanical LLC scored the highest on the RFP evaluation. We recommend to enter into a 2-year contract for HVAC services serving our South Area facilities, which includes Hammond High School, Hammond East Side, Ponchatoula High, Midway Elementary, Natalbany Middle, Greenville Park Leadership Academy, our Special Service Center, and our Technology Center.
Move to adopt administration's recommendation.
Second. For the record, I love the way this was very easy to read today and understand the difference and go through and shop and compare. And the OCD side of me really appreciated that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toller.
Just one question.
Okay.
So in the past, we had the one contract for the whole parish. I know it's great to spread out our employees and our workers and our people that we hire. Is there a reason that you decided to do it this way, that we
Well-
could hear?
Because we did the RFP, we wanted to split the parish into two, hopefully get more competitive competition. And we felt we did because we had some vendors that only quoted on the south end.
Okay. Because they're very comparable. I was just wondering, I mean, we have no complaints against Morgan Mechanical, who's been doing it. That's why I was just curious why you decided to do it this way.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Go ahead,
How
Mr.
long
Bush.
has Morgan Mechanical been involved in our school system?
They've been servicing our facilities as long as I've been here since 1995, so prior to that.
And you had no complaints with them?
That's correct.
How close were they from north and south? Because I know it's not just a bid as far as the actual hourly rate. I know other thing goes into it, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Mr. Bush, you can remove your mask. We've made that.
Isn't there other things that go into this other than just the financial part of it?
Yes, sir. That's why we've evaluated their experience. And so on the south end, that we're recommending Morgan Mechanical, they weren't the lowest price, but they certainly were overall the highest score because their experience and knowledge of our equipment carried a lot of weight in the decision.
And I've read it also. How close were they in the north end?
Price-wise,
Yes.
score-wise, the recommended vendor, the recommended vendor scored 88.95. Morgan Mechanical second and came in 86.1. The price difference was substantial, $25,000 difference. That's what resulted in the recommended vendor because they were significantly lower than the other vendors.
Anything else, Mr. Bush?
I'm good, thank
You
you.
good? Okay. Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy?
Online voting is now open.
Nothing's popped
Hold
up
on.
for me.
1 second on mine, because mine's asking me if I want to change my vote, but I've not voted.
I don't have anything.
Let's see.
You already
I
voted.
think we voted while we were talking just
Ask
now.
Mr. Duncan. I mean.
Maybe you already voted?
Okay, now I corrected it.
Okay.
Online voting is now closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we're going to F.
G.
Consider approval of the revised 2019-2020 Special Revenue Fund. Mr. Steinbach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, we're presenting the ESSERF CARES Act Strong Fund Special Revenue Budget for Board consideration for budget revision. Back in April, we came to y'all when this was first started, the pandemic, and the federal government passed. We've asked y'all to approve a budget of $7.6 million so we can go ahead and start spending money on developing the distance learning. I came back to you in June because we realized a lot of the items we were purchasing weren't received and paid for in the 1920 school year. I asked y'all to lower that special revenue fund down to $470,000. As we're closing out the year, we realized the outdoor access points that we developed at each one of the schools was originally recorded in our technology budget. It really is part of the CARES Act. We are adjusting that as an accounting entry, but asking to include a revision in the budget to go for the CARES Act to $656,000 to account for the additional outdoor access points we put in at the schools. So I'm asking for a budget revision for the 1920 school year related to these changes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy?
Online voting is now open. Online voting is now closed. Motion passes unanimously.
No other items, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
If there's nothing else, the Finance Committee meeting is adjourned.